please find yourself a comfortable seat. Just already invoking a time of meditative presence for us all together during the 2 hours. So it doesn't just include the guided sit, but really the whole practice. So mindful eating, Elaine, is also part of it. So it doesn't mean that you have to stop eating at all. As long as whatever you're doing in front of the screen now is infused with mindfulness, it all covers that. So we don't all have to sit with our eyes closed, but rather can have our beverage, our food, and whatever else, our art. It's all mindful practice. So there we go. And I thought I really wanted to offer a second part of the RAIN practice. I think most of you were present for part one. I'm going to go over the acronym one more time, but I wanted to emphasize how to practice RAIN with our beliefs that are obviously very ingrained in our psyches from early on and from so many different experiences in our lives. But I wanted to go over RAIN one more time, the acronym and what it stands for, but basically start by saying that RAIN is a type of mindfulness practice that helps us free ourselves from believed thoughts, stuck emotions, and conditioned responses. And so the R in the word rain, just like rain, like it's raining, the R stands for recognizing. So in this case, recognizing the difficult emotion and the belief or thoughts associated with it. So just a pure recognizing that it's even present. And then the A in RAIN stands for allowing. So that means to bring your attention to whatever feels most difficult in what you have recognized, with the intention of fully letting it be. So just allowing it to actually be present, to hold space for it, to invite it into our field of presence. And allowing is really the willingness to pause and stay present with the life that is here, just as it is. So that's really something that we can practice at all times in our lives, not just something that we practice at a particular time in a sitting practice or walking meditation. But I really want you to start thinking about all these offerings as things that can be done in any posture, in any moment of your life, not just in a sitting posture. And I think Hugh has really exemplified that for us, because Hugh has I see Hugh often engage in certain things on the screen, but I see that he does it very mindfully. So to me, at least, that is very much part of a mindfulness practice. So the willingness to pause and stay present with the life that is here, just as it is. And allowing difficult emotions to be present requires a gentleness and a tenderness. And I think we've often spoken about being present with a sense of loving awareness, with a sense of loving kindness, whatever is here. What I wanted to add to that is that it also takes quite a bit of courage to be present with whatever difficulty might arise. You know, our tendency obviously is to push it away, pretend that it's not there, or to entertain ourselves so we don't have to face what's here, what's difficult. So it can be quite a bit of a courageous act to show up what's present that is challenging or difficult. And then the I in the acronym RAIN stands for investigating. So in RAIN, in the RAIN process, it's very noteworthy to say that investigating here doesn't mean to analyze something with your head, that it's not a cognitive process, but rather dropping into the body and getting a felt sense for the difficult emotion or the trigger that might be present at the moment. So with that, we focus our attention in the body and direct the attention to the sensations in the body that accompany the difficult emotions, whatever might be present. So again, it can be really challenging to be present with strong emotions such as fear or anger, for example. And And it requires that we give these emotions and sensations a loving and compassionate presence. And I just wanted to add a note here that coming from a trauma background myself is that, oftentimes if you have experienced any type of trauma in your life or even suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress, the instruction in meditation to just be present to everything as it arises and hold space for it might not be something that is readily available or um, even advisable for someone that might be really heavily triggered because of trauma. And it might be much more advisable at that moment when an emotion becomes really overly challenging or where you can't feel like you can hold space to it if you're sitting in meditation, to really open your eyes and reorient yourself to maybe the things that are present in the room instead of pushing it through. I'm going to stay with this. I don't care how terrible it feels. That no, open the awareness up, maybe go for a walk, look around, open your eyes. Don't try to be with something that clearly you cannot hold space for. That's never advisable. So I just wanted to add that in, that everyone knows how big their container of mindfulness is and what they can hold space for in any given moment. And please, just like in yoga, they teach you not to go past your, the most, to your edge, to a stretch that feels like, okay, it's challenging, but it doesn't take you over the edge. So the same also applies in meditation practice as well. And then the N in RAIN, in the acronym RAIN, stands for nurturing. So that is really to offer love and acceptance and compassion to the vulnerable part within you. Maybe oftentimes making it a mind-body response, maybe placing a hand over the part that feels vulnerable. Maybe it's the heart or it's the belly, it's the throat, whatever you feel like needs some soothing in the moment. So bringing that soothing and nurturing to your mindfulness experience is really, really important. And maybe even offering, I know Lauren, for example, likes these compassion phrases, maybe even offering a compassion phrase such as, may I hold the suffering with compassion. May I hold the suffering with compassion. And if you feel, as you have maybe learned in the future to guide yourself through the RAIN process yourself, if you feel that your nervous system has really calmed down, that there's a sense that, okay, whatever seemed challenging or triggering that I practiced with in RAIN now has subsided and to an extent, then it's also advisable to spend just a little time in what is now called the after the RAIN. So where you basically cease any doing in meditation and simply rest in your heart center. Rest in your heart center and maybe sensing the spaciousness that has been created within you through the RAIN process. So today, as I said in the beginning, I wanted to really focus the RAIN practice on our beliefs. And I like this analogy of how our beliefs are really filters for our reality. So I know I remember Z using this example once way back on Campus Avenue in her mindfulness courses, that beliefs, and I don't know if Z was actually referring to beliefs at the time, but I'm using it here for beliefs, which is like, beliefs are like putting on a pair of glasses with a colored lens, and then all you see the world through are these colored lenses, this particular color. It's not actually being in touch with reality, but being in touch with your beliefs and how you see the world through this belief system. And might not have anything really to do with reality, but it's just driven by our beliefs. However, there's a reason that most of us, I shouldn't say we as in all of us, maybe you have surpassed this, so I don't want to make assumptions, but I feel like there's really a reason why most of us hold on very tightly to our beliefs, because they really provide a sense of safety and a sense of certainty in our lives. And I think that we as humans are, well, this is kind of a negative word, but I'm going to say it for now, that humans are really literally addicted to certainty, and we hold on tightly to our beliefs. And I think we have really seen this, especially and in particular during this last year and a half, that people really hold on tightly to their beliefs and their belief systems in uncertain times. And people tend to hold on more tightly to their beliefs because when their beliefs are shaken up, for example, by changes in society or even by Buddhist teachings, it can create a lot of fear in us. So, for example, the attention and uncovering of systemic racism in the US in recent times can really create a lot of fear in certain groups of white people. And I know that Hugh is not 100% white, but I'm looking at the screen and it seems that most of us are, completely white in this group. So I just wanted to use that as an example that, and this might be something challenging for some of us to take in, but to really know that as white people, we all have benefited from white supremacy in this country. And to have these racist structures of our society become exposed can really create a sense of fear in white people, because what will happen if this becomes a more just and fair society? And you might all be thinking at this moment, well, I'm all for that. I want a more fair and a more just society. But what if my beliefs and values are no longer the only values that are being considered, for example? What happens to me if this white supremacy system is toppled? Will I be safe? So I just wanted to say that I imagine that most of us in this group consider ourselves, liberal or progressive and so forth. And I often walk by these houses that have these beautiful signs in the front yard that say, everybody welcome here, Muslims, LGBTQ+, people of different faiths, whatever, everyone is welcome. And I think that's a really nice way of thinking of it. But I wonder, what would happen to one of us having that sign if all of a sudden everyone that moved in around us were of a different faith. And maybe it's a faith where values are very different. For example, where women maybe not held in the same type of esteem as we at least think of ourselves that women are in this society, well, in white mainstream society. What if everything around us all of a sudden changed? Would we then be so open and welcoming still? So it's just to me, it's something interesting to contemplate, to go a little bit deeper with that. For example, it's nice to be open and accepting as long as our belief systems are not being rattled, are not being shaken with a direct experience. So just maybe think about that for yourselves at some point. And the same, I think, can also be true when it comes to the Buddhist teachings, for example, because the Buddha really offered some very, very radical teachings that we've already talked about that relate to aging, sickness, and death. And I think most of us can take in more easily that other people in our lives might die, but not so easily that we ourselves will die as well. So that's a really, really hard teaching to really take in and to contemplate. And the same with the teachings of impermanence and non-self that we haven't really gotten into so much yet in this particular Zoom group, but we may. So so just wanted to highlight that, uncertainty tends to create fear and strengthens our beliefs. So in this RAIN practice, we can begin to then recognize our beliefs and maybe uncover subconscious beliefs we weren't even, we didn't even know existed. So we can begin to, hold on for a second. So we can begin to see that when we believe something, it oftentimes is created or stems from fear. So with that, really, what RAIN does is it helps us recognize beliefs and the impact of our beliefs. Because it's really easy for our beliefs to trap us in a kind of trance, in a kind of emotional trance that Tara Brach often talks about. For example, very common in Western practitioners is the trance of unworthiness. Not being good enough is the common trance we believe in Western society as well. So when we get trapped in a belief or belief thoughts, the sensations they trigger in the body then strengthen the belief even more. So then a belief thought turns into a belief system about ourselves in the world. And also when we are in a trance, we often solidify the belief in our mind. We solidify the emotions we feel in the body. So it just makes it even stronger. And I heard a statistic once, well, not a statistic really, but this interesting type of information, which is that I guess they have really found out that whoever they is, it's interesting to use they. I'm not sure who they is, or researchers, but somebody that's worked with, studying emotions perhaps really found out that emotions on their own actually only stay in our bodies. We actually only experience a certain type of emotion, like, a strong emotion like anger or fear, for about a minute and a half. Unless we mess with them and create stories around them or tell ourselves something about them, and then it creates more fear or more anger, and we really, fuel the flames of that particular emotions, and then they tend to stay much longer than the minute and the half that they would without interference. So our beliefs can really turn the emotions more into a mood and something we hold on to, instead of just letting it, pass through us and let it go on its own. However, it's really important, I think, also to point out that beliefs are not really bad, bad, again, whatever that means. It's a label, bad in themselves. They are basically a representation of our conditioning in society and our experiences, especially experiences we've lived through at a much younger age. So, for example, the more trauma we experience in our lives, the more pain beliefs will also likely be present within us. So beliefs really stem from our wounds in childhood and messages given in society. And then from there, it really becomes easy to see how what we believe really affects everything in us. If, for example, we have fear beliefs and we believe that others are not trustworthy, and it's hard to also form trusting relationships with other people. And to heal, beliefs have to really be brought into our awareness. And that's often tricky. It's not often, so easy to detect what is the belief here. What is it that I'm actually believing here? We might be in the dark about that. But there's a saying that says that illusion exists because it's not investigated. Illusion exists because it's not investigated. And so that's really, and the Buddha was very strong on investigating our experiences to bring them in alignment with reality. So in RAIN, we can investigate beliefs. We can recognize how certain beliefs are fear-based and create suffering in us. And then we can allow to create space and allow the beliefs and the felt sense of the belief to come to the fore, to come into our consciousness. And we then can hence investigate the belief as a felt sense in the body that we've often practiced before, to really drop down from the head into the body and experience the aliveness. I like this term, the aliveness, or the felt sense of something in the body. So for example, a nice question to use as an inquiry for that would be, what am I believing at this moment? What am I believing at this moment? Or when I'm believing that, how am I feeling? How am I feeling it in the body? When I'm believing that, how am I feeling it in the body? So often there's even a belief that one is bad, again, bad, and quote unquote, for feeling this way. For example, feelings like shame and trigger, or, shame and anger, or being afraid. That's a trance of unworthiness that we're experiencing. And the feeling that I'm bad for having these feelings. So it's not just the feeling of shame or anger or feeling afraid. Then on top of that, we add the layer of feeling badly, that we even have these feelings in the beginning. So it's kind of a double whammy that we're putting on ourselves. So this is then in the practice where we can open to these feelings and we can ask, what is it like to feel this? What's it like to feel this? What is it like to feel this in the body at this very moment? And maybe then we can connect for the first time with a kind of soul sadness that underlies the anger, or that underlies the shame. And I think if you've ever sat or meditated, and here I'm referring to a sitting practice for maybe a longer period of time, where you can really drop into your body, into the feelings. I think that oftentimes a lot of us then touch into what can be, called a soul sadness, maybe a deeper sadness that stems from whatever trauma we might have experienced at a younger age, or maybe even, a soul sadness from the karma of our, communal society. I mean, from our community, from our society as a whole, with the climate crisis, with racism and so forth. It gets us in touch with this really deeper sense of a soul sadness if we allow ourselves to become really deeply still within ourselves. So this is really where we can open into the nurturing part of RAIN and offer compassion to ourselves and the world. This compassion phrase, that something like, may I and all beings everywhere be protected from inner and outer harm, for example. So with this, in this way, beliefs can then begin to loosen up and become less solidified. And again, I want to offer this inquiry that says, or that is a question that says, who would I be if I didn't believe this? Who would I be if I didn't believe this? And we can hence find out who we truly are when we let go of our beliefs, and how we might relate to the world in new ways. So just wanted to share here at the end of the talk one more story about the Dalai Lama that I heard very long time ago, where the Dalai Lama actually announced very strongly that he came out to announce, to make the statement that homosexuality was a sin and against the traditional beliefs of Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan culture in general. And after he made this very strong statement, he was actually faced with a lot of criticism by Western Buddhist practitioners in response. And what he apparently did is he went into a very deep meditation process with this and really reflected on the statement and what he had said. And really, very deeply reflected on the suffering that his belief had created in others, and how holding on to this belief created suffering in himself. And I don't know if some of you remember this, but afterwards he came out with a very strong statement and saying that he was misguided in his belief on homosexuality. And I found that really, really admirable, you know, from someone that is very deeply steeped in his own tradition and in his own belief system, maybe even especially a culture that's so much at risk of becoming extinct, that he was able to not hold on to this very solid belief that he was taught and was able to basically transcend it. So I just wanted to give that as an example of how that is possible. And also just to remind everyone that the Buddha really encouraged us very strongly to investigate even his own teachings, and to not take his teachings a dogma, but rather something that we try on and practice with and see if it speaks to us, if it's true for us. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to share this evening about beliefs as it relates to rain. And in a little while, I'm going to offer also a guided meditation on this particular aspect of the rain process of working with our beliefs. And in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over to Z. I don't know what Z has planned, but I think Z will offer something up in this moment.
He has nothing planned. I wait to see what you're going to say and hope that something comes to me. If you'd like to stand, join me standing. If standing is not accessible, then just stay sitting. You'll still be able to follow along. Lost everyone. And not everyone. Just you. Okay. So let's start with the feet a little wider than hip width apart and a gentle bend in the knees. And if you're sitting, just ground through your sit bones. And we're going to do exactly what Hugh was doing. Take the arms out to the side. We're just going to start to turn side to side. And you can do this if you're sitting. Look over your shoulders. And what I like to do is I like to take the hand that's coming in and tap the center of my chest. Feel free to try that or not. I think the pressure point for the thymus is there, and it's good to tap that spot. And see if you're breathing and if you're aware of your breathing. And then slow it down and come back to stillness. Just feeling body. And then step the feet back to hip width apart. And we'll take our slow motion walks. So when we inhale, we're going to lift the right knee and the left hand, flex the right foot, and exhale and lower as though you're pushing something down with your hand and pushing something down with your foot. And then switch right hand and left foot. And then very deliberately pressing down. You can go at your own pace. And if you're sitting, you can still lift one foot and the opposite hand. And if you're standing but you don't quite have the balance, you're welcome to hold on with the hand that you're not lifting. Coordinating with breath. Good. And then we'll end the next time it's the left hand and the right leg. And then come to stillness. Now, we're going to do a little walking meditation. So if you leave the computer screen, that's fine. You don't have to go very far. You can just pick a small patch and go back and forth. And here's what we're going to do for the walking meditation. We're going to do a counting walking meditation. And the counting is going to go like this. We start with 1 foot stepping forward and we say to ourselves 1. And then we increase each time. And then we go 1, 2. And then 1, 2, 3. Always one number with each step. 1, 2, 3, 4. All the way up to 10. When you get to 10, you'll say 10. Then you'll take 2 steps, 10, 9. 3 steps, 10, 9, 8. All the way down to 1. The key is, if your mind is wandering, you might find yourself saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even though you're really only supposed to be on 1, 2. If you find you're not doing the counting, then you start from the beginning. So, does everybody understand? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to take a step and I'm going to call that in my mind 1. I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to call that 1. And then the next step 2. Then I'm going to take the next step and it's going to be 1. Step again 2. Step again 3. So every step has a number, but the numbers are going to progressively accelerate to 10. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Always one number for each step. When you get to 10, you do it in reverse. 10, 10, 9, 10, 9, 8. One step for each number. If you find yourself losing it, you start from the beginning again. You go back to 1. So this is a good training for really like catching the mind, which is really helpful in learning how to catch beliefs, right? This is our practice, see what the mind is doing. So I'll let you just do it on your own. And you can do it at any pace you want. When you get back to 1, we'll come back to the computer. And we can all start to come back now. You may have had to start over again, so you may not have been able to get all the way back to 1. And when you come back, just find yourself back in your seat. And Bettina will lead us in a guided rain.
So just take a moment to be aware of everything within your visual field, maybe just having a soft gaze and seeing whatever you can take in your visual field. Perhaps all the way out to the periphery of your vision. And just noticing what's in your visual field. And then if you're comfortable, you can allow the eyes to gently close if they're not already closed, or just keep your eyes open and just have a gentle gaze that is a little bit downward directed. And just invite yourself to come into presence. And just become aware of your body in the sitting posture. Perhaps taking a few deep breaths to help collect your attention. And see if you can relax and open with each in-breath. And then let go of any thoughts with the out-breaths. So relaxing and opening with the in-breaths. Letting go of thoughts with the out-breaths. And then sense a situation or a belief within yourself that keeps you from freedom, or rather that keeps you in a state of suffering. Perhaps a sense that you're not safe in this world, that you can't measure up, that you're not good enough, that you can't withstand all the changes in the world that are going on. So just take a moment to sense into a situation or belief that feels true for you in this time. And include here any related feelings, maybe shame, anger, or fear. What's here right now for you? And give yourself the gift of allowing it to be here. And you can investigate the core of the belief that's keeping you small, such as, I'll never be loved, I can't trust my goodness, people don't like me. Just become aware and investigate the core of the belief that's keeping you small. And you can ask yourself, when I'm believing this, what's my experience? And see if you can really let it become big or be big. You can feel your throat, chest, belly, and see how this fear-based survival brain belief expresses itself, breathing with the experience. And then if you want to, place a hand on your heart and let the loving touch of your hand accompany the fear or whatever is here, if that's comfortable for you. And you can ask yourself, how has this belief affected my life, my relationships? Your relationships with your own life and spirit, with this living earth. And ask yourself, is this belief really true? Maybe you already know it's a belief, and that beliefs can cause pain, and that they might feel real, but that they're not true. They might feel real, but they're not true. So I invite you to focus on the impact this belief has had on you. And offer some care and tenderness to your being. Perhaps you can listen and sense what you want to offer from a wise place to yourself. And then spend some time just with yourself in silence and stillness, just tuning in to yourself, what the experience is like now. Maybe offering yourself a continued soothing and loving presence, and also staying open with a sense of curiosity of what else might arise, what part in you might also want to speak up and say something to you. And see if you can get in touch in a deeper way with the wise part within you that might have to offer something to you as it relates to the belief, as it relates to the fear, whatever is here. So I'll ring the bell at the end of the practice, but we'll be here for another 10 minutes or so. So just take your time to be with what's here and however you wish to work with it. And then for the last 2 minutes, if you haven't already, just simply letting go of any active doing as part of the practice and entering more of a spaciousness in your mind and heart and body. Just tuning into the aliveness and the life that's right here. Feeling the weight of your body sitting here. And perhaps, just like we did in the beginning, taking a few deep breaths to bring yourselves back more fully from the experience. And in a moment, I will ring the bell to signal the end of our practice time together. Thank you for your practice. We will see you